Good
Good
morning,
morning.
John. How are you?
I'm good. Started doing that. One more thing before the next meeting starts. And like,
Yeah, I know what that's like.
Hmm,
Trying to process invoices, and I did call Ebony this morning.
okay.
Call Ebony.
So how'd that go?
It went well. It went well. She's willing to do it. There's a concern we have to kind of talk through as a committee. She's willing to run. But I think we can work through the concern.
Okay.
So we'll wait for everybody to get here and we can sort of talk through it. Morning, Eliza. How are you?
Hey, doing well. How about you all?
Doing well, thank you.
Good.
Did you see, Eliza, did you see my email about next Wednesday?
Yes, I have just been,
Oh, that's fine. Just want to make sure you got it.
thank you. Yes, I will follow up today.
And we're meeting with UMD this afternoon, Eliza.
Yes, 4 o'clock.
That's what I recalled.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing more.
Yeah.
Morning,
And
Sally. Oh, she's not connected yet. Sorry. Good morning, Sally.
Good morning.
Jonathan said he was going to be late. He emailed me yesterday.
Yeah, he wanted a updated COC registration, so I just sent it to him.
This is the meeting that Russ was going to miss, right?
Russ is missing this one. He's in Philadelphia for training.
And I'm taking the notes, so I'll do my best.
I'm sure you'll do fine.
We don't have anything to vote on as a exec committee, which is good. Until Jonathan gets here, we don't have a quorum. So.
Or Sharita. I don't know if Sharita will
Or
make it.
Sharita, yeah, either one of them. Give us what we need, so that's good. And we'll go ahead and call our meeting to order so we got a lot on our agenda today. We need to not rush through it, but get on it.
You got it. All right.
So first thing on there, of course, is welcoming everyone. So welcome everyone. Hey, Jeffrey. I always say that when they start coming in before the audio gets connected. Good morning, Jeffrey.
Good morning. Good morning.
How are you doing?
Wonderful. How about yourself?
Good. You getting all settled in?
We're getting there, getting all nestled in here.
Oh, we're definitely glad to have you. All right, so the first thing on the agenda is approving minutes, so we'll hold off on that until either Sharita or Jonathan get here. And if they don't get here, then we will hold it until the next time we meet. Do we have minutes? I forgot to look this morning to see if we even had any minutes, but
I don't
Oh,
know.
we did. I think Russ sent a couple months worth of minutes, if I remember correctly.
did. Yeah. But I forgot to check. Let's see here. I've got the last HSAC minutes. Let's see.
He sent an email on May 3rd with,
Yes, I've got them. Yeah.
That's
I just forgot to check this morning. You know, you get there, he's like, there's one thing. What was that one thing I was going to do when I got there? That was it. Yep.
Yeah, for February, March, and April.
I've got the May minutes that he sent. So anyway, so as soon as Sharita or Jonathan gets here, we'll circle back to that.
Okay.
So I guess the next thing is setting the June agenda. So Colin.
June agenda. Give me a second to pull up the planning document. All right, so. We had policy and planning update last month, so I think it's performance management's turn.
Looks like it.
Man. That goes up. All right, make this a little bit bigger for folks. The performance management update, and these are kind of things that we had as placeholders. COC NOFO debriefing, which would include our regular NOFO and special NOFO, which was our unsheltered request that we were not funded for. We could do a presentation on sort of what we learned from those scorings that came back. Sheldon had reached out to me about Urban Ministries St. Philip's maybe wanting some support on their redevelopment, but I'm not sure what they want or need yet. They're looking at some pre-development costs, and he wasn't sure if he needed HSAC support for pre-development costs. I said, I think, it'd probably be better to hold the chips until you need real money for construction than, a couple $100,000 or whatever for, design work. I don't know that the HSAC would need to sign off on those types of things, but told him I would share it with the executive committee, and he would follow up with me whether or not they wanted to do a presentation, and said if he wanted to, even if he didn't want to request HSAC support for anything at this point, if he and St. Philip's wanted to present kind of a status of what's happening at UMD and what the ultimate goal and plan is, that I would share it with the executive committee and could look at either putting it on in the June agenda cycle or a future agenda, depending on what their timing was and what our timing was. And then this is one that we've been kind of kicking around for a while, is kind of what do COCs have to do? We also, Lloyd reminded me yesterday that we are going to have to formally adopt prioritizations for the COC, this upcoming continuum of care NOFO that could be released any day now, because HUD's notorious for any day now, and then 2 months later dropping their NOFO on us.
Colin, I think we also need approval from the HSAC for the state ESG priorities.
We did that in May.
We did that in May, okay,
Yep, we got those ones done.
thanks.
Mhm.
My memory fails.
All right. Other items, anything? Oh, do we want to do anything on our Jamboard? Our exercise? I think that's, we don't want to lose sight of that.
I would be interested in what folks think after we debrief today. So
Okay.
I'm not sure like how other people process and reflected on that. But certainly after that conversation today, I think there's opportunities to think about what we could do.
Yeah, I think we should definitely try to bring some feedback so it doesn't get lost.
Yeah, I think originally we had talked about, what are there potential connection points to some of the stuff in the NOFO? And I think that could be a nice
Mhm.
pairing. So potentially that.
Okay. All right. Anything else that we can think of? Jonathan's 5 minutes. Lloyd, how long do you think you need for COC NOFO priorities? Like 15 minutes, 10, 15 minutes? You're muted.
Thanks. 10 minutes, I think probably is sufficient.
Okay.
And it's basically the same as last year, so I don't know that there's gonna be much discussion.
Because that needs to come through policy and planning on the 12th.
Correct.
Okay. COC NOFO, special NOFO debriefing. That could be,
That could be a bit more extensive with some discussion.
could be 30 minutes.
Yeah,
We did like 15, 20 minutes to get through each of those debriefings, or at least the high levels. And the
Right.
areas that we got sort of dinged on. St. Philip's, this is a question mark. And then and I think the question will come down to what we want to do with Jamboard, if Urban Ministries needs or wants to come in, and the trainings. So the training might make more sense to do at the beginning of the new year in August. To set the tone for. I'm just thinking if we need time, it might make sense to do that so we can fit in the other pieces.
Yeah.
Is that you, Helen, saying yeah?
Yeah, that was me saying, yeah.
Okay.
We also did not do the housing first evaluation last month. I think we said we were going to move it to June.
Oh, yeah. Oh, and this would also need to do, potentially allow for an email approval of state. I think the state ESG timeline, we have an HSAC meeting to approve the state application, right, Lloyd?
I guess it depends on what the timeline is, or what the schedule for the exact meetings are, is, I guess. State ESG application is gonna be due August 21st. Typically, the HSAC would not meet until August 23rd if we kept to the regular schedule. I think we were, or I was suggesting rescheduling the August meeting of the HSAC to August 9th so that the funding recommendations for state ESG funding could be approved by the HSAC and allow us time for any appeals, any local appeals before August 21st.
Okay.
I don't know if that's something that if we just want to do email approval of funding recommendations, or how you want to handle that.
As for the committee to. Let's figure out our HSAC meeting schedule. And that's part of today's meeting, is to try to figure out what the schedule will look like. And if we do an August meeting, we don't need an email approval for the state, because we'll time it since we know when the state's ESG applications due, but we may, since we know nothing about HUD's timelines, and HUD is always the amorphous blob that is incredibly specifically vague. We may need to put something in place to allow for email approval if we can't get it to line up on our best guesses at this point. Okay. What do you think, Helen?
That's the timing one.
15:45. we've still got about
preliminary.
we got about 30 to 45 minutes that we can do Jam Board, St. Philip's, and Housing First. Housing First, Lloyd, is what, about 10 minutes? Or just a quick
Yeah,
update?
I don't know what the HSAC or the executive committee wants in terms of an update. I personally would like to hear from the providers of COC funded permanent housing as to what what their evaluation of the entire process was, or what they learned. I think that would be more important
Okay.
than staff providing input.
So you would rather sort of hear from the providers themselves, like have the providers make the presentation?
I would. I think that
So
would
let's-
be, I think that would be more valuable for the HSAC and the COC, is to hear directly from, Housing for New Hope and Alliance and Urban Ministries as to what they learned from the processes.
So maybe it's better to do in August to give them some time to prepare for that. Otherwise, we're giving them about 2.5 weeks.
I was gonna say, I think in the original email that we had talked about the Housing First evaluation, we were talking about presenting what was shared as like the standard for Housing First, and like what's the expectation of what that means to to be housing focused. But I think I definitely agree that having the providers share their perspective of what it actually was like in practice would be nice. But I think like initially we had talked about wanting to share like the initial presentation of what that means first.
Well, I mean, we can do that at the staff level.
Because I think you shared like a document with like the guidance for what it means to be housing first.
Right.
So I guess we could do it either as a combined, here's what Housing First is, and then make it a joint presentation. Otherwise, we're going to have one piece of it in June and potentially the second piece in August.
Yeah.
That could get a little disjointed.
Right. I mean,
Yeah.
I think we can do it in June if we want to talk more about what Housing First is, and then talk in general terms about what we attempted to do with the evaluation of our projects and get input. I don't know that the providers necessarily would need to do a whole lot of preparation. I mean, we can alert them that we want to hear from them as to what they understood to be the value of the cross COC evaluation that was done, what they may have learned from it, and how they maybe are planning to do in response to it with their projects.
Okay. So we'll put it there.
I think that could easily be overall probably 20 to 30 minutes by the time you start together.
So I think we're gonna have, looking at this, we definitely have to do the HUD COC NOFO priorities. That's a must do. The rest of these, COC NOFO debriefing may assist with setting priorities. Because it's going to let you know what we didn't score well in the last application. And in theory, whatever we do this year should hopefully reverse or help improve the scores in the new and the new thing. And then whether or not we do jam, the strategic plan jam board piece. Urban Ministries in St. Philip's is up in the air, and we can probably
We need to move
text
that.
Sheldon, see if he knows anything.
Whether we go into any detail on the Jamboard next steps, we definitely need to keep it in the people's minds. And
Mhm.
spend all that time on it. Okay, so thank you. Have a nice day. We'll let you know.
Mhm.
Yeah, probably should revisit that. So we're looking at hour and a half.
I would say, I don't know, which is more important? Eliza, Helen, keeping the Jamboard moving or the housing first?
Well, even if we just do 5 minutes on Jamboard, just to let people know where we are. I mean, if we don't get into any detail, what do you think, Eliza?
Yeah, I guess I'm thinking two things. One is, first, I'm behind on my email, so I'm not sure if this came through, but we said that we would send a survey. So I'm not sure if that has gone out to folks, in terms of adding more data to that collection and offering up space for people to sign up. It may have come through and I just haven't seen it. So that's one thing that's I'm thinking about. The second is kind of what I was saying prior is there a way to tie some of the, like, if we can share a little bit today about what are the things that we didn't do well in last year's that will be presented in the next meeting, maybe we can tie some of those pieces to what people have shared in the Jamboard. And that's kind of one thread that we pull through to the NOFO conversation, rather than keeping it separate, like starting to show like, hey, people said this and it's connecting to this piece that's coming up and we're talking about now. I'm not sure if that would be strategic or if we want to keep it as separate conversations.
To answer your first question about the survey, it did not go out. I've been out most of this week. I have a infection that I'm still recovering from. But I definitely think that we should keep it open because I don't know how much time we'd be able to allow them to submit responses, make a report, and then present that. So I think that at the HSAC meeting, we should encourage them to continue to submit responses. And then we could do like a larger, like actual reporting of like everything that we found, especially reflecting from the NOFO as well. And Lloyd's presentation that he's going to give about, what were some of our not as strong aspects of our last application as well. So I think that we could definitely do like a larger or a longer conversation in the next meeting. But we should encourage them to continue to share responses so that we can continue to collect data in the interim.
Great. So it sounds like maybe before that next meeting, that survey link could go out. We could share that was live and then make some connections to the NOFO, but not have a specific conversation that's just about the Jamboard yet. Does that sound like what you were sharing, Melissa?
Yeah, I think that would make sense.
Helen, what do you think?
That sounds good to me. Yeah.
Yeah, it would be helpful if there's just like a few notes or like I wouldn't be able to lead the Jamboard's connection session. I would need support in that, particularly if we're talking about the connections to the NOFO debriefing. So if that's, I just want to make sure that we're clear on who would cover that, because I would not be prepared or have the knowledge to do so.
I mean, we probably won't have all the stuff back from the survey.
Sure.
But what I'm thinking is we could report out, here's some preliminary information that we got from the last HSAC meeting. here are some themes that have evolved. And from those themes, we might be able to tie them to the debriefing once we sort of filter that stuff. And then we can say, this list will probably be tweaked as we process the things that have come in through the survey over the last couple of weeks. And we'll come back to this in August or September to, you know, finalize the report and vision or whatever, something like that.
Yeah, that's great. I was not even thinking about something so formal, just, I think bringing up the connection itself and even naming, like, we're paying attention to this and it's not that we've lost it, is like the primary function of making those connections rather than like analyzing data before we have all of it together. Sure. I think that could not be the best use of time, but I think what is more helpful is like tying it back and letting people know that, yes, we're thinking about this, and yes, this is connecting to some of the things that we are already doing, just to create that visualization for folks.
So just a brief update and reminder.
Yeah, or, you know, if there's like one or two, like, we saw this written and this really ties into, right? It's like, this was somebody wrote this in the Jamboard and we haven't collected it all and created themes, but this really ties into what we're talking about today. I think that's just helpful. It's helpful for me. So I'm hopeful it's helpful for others.
So is that right? Highlight any items on the Jamboard that tie into the debriefing, maybe? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, I'm thinking like 1 to 3, like just keeping it simple.
Okay. I think we could do that. That wouldn't be too tough to do. And then do you want to do that, Eliza?
Do I want to?
Sort of present it. I think we can sort of help you. Like, we know what's in the debriefings.
Uh-huh.
We could probably work with you to get the Jamboard, you know, items that, you know, 2 or 3 Jamboard pieces that tie to what we also, that we saw. Here are like 3 things from the Jamboard that are also in our debriefing.
Yeah, if someone is
We can do
willing,
that.
yeah, I'm happy to do that. If someone's willing to like chat with me, you know, a week before and help me just get my brain wrapped around how to say that appropriately and present it, I'm happy to do that.
Sure. I can help you with that.
Great.
All right, so it looks like we've got a pretty full agenda.
And that's without the UMD thing, presentation, right?
Yeah, and I just texted Sheldon to see if he has any update on it. And if it's not a need, i.e., there's like something that, you know, city, county is requiring some sort of support, I'll say let's bump it to August or September. Because he wasn't clear whether or not there was going to be a need or if it was kind of a want.
Okay, that's good. So we got an hour and a half.
Pretty full meeting.
Yep. All right. Very good.
All right.
Anything else on the agenda then? We good with this?
I think we can approve minutes now too. We have a quorum.
Yeah, I know. I was getting to that. I wanted to finish up the agenda first, though. Thank you. So we're good with the agenda then. Okay, good.
I think so.
So we will go back 2 minutes now that Jonathan's here. Welcome, Jonathan. Did everyone get a chance to look at the minutes for May? That's what we're looking at. If so, I'll take a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Thank
Liza.
you, Liza. And the second, assuming Jonathan's here.
Yep, just final check. Second that motion.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say yes. All three
Yeah.
of us. All right, minutes are approved. We will move on to the next item then. Thank you. Which is the potentially changing the date of the August HSAC meeting.
That was the executive committee.
Yes, thank you. I really am here. It might not seem that way.
You're fine.
A little distracted this morning for some reason. Our HSAC executive committee meeting is scheduled for August 4th, but this will be my last meeting as chair of the HSAC. And because we formally turn things over to Eliza on the 23rd when we meet in the HSAC meeting. But I'm going to be in Emmitsburg that week for a class, the 30th through the 4th, week coming back on the 5th. So I won't be able to do a meeting on the 4th. I was wondering if we could move it to the 11th.
That would be great for me because I also will be out of town and I will not be back in the office until the 7th.
Okay.
So question, because Lloyd was sharing the ESG, the state ESG application is due August 21st. And the full HSAC has to approve that meeting. And we have to have like a 2-week window between approval and submission to the state, which may need either one, we would have to move the HSAC meeting to August 8th or 9th, or do an email vote that week and keep our meeting on the regular cycle. So if we move the HSAC meeting, our executive committee might have to go to like July 28th.
I could do July 28th.
I too could do July 28th. And that actually would, yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, the 28th is actually better for me. I could do the other date, but I would be in a car driving or not driving myself. Someone would be driving, but I'm out of town that day.
So it sounds like there's consensus on a July 28th executive committee meeting.
It does.
Great.
All right. Perfect.
All right. So we'll work to get that sent out. Then let's talk about August HSAC meeting. Do we want to try and do that on the 9th, or do we want to bump it later?
What do we need to do? We need to.
Well, it depends. We could do an email vote to approve the state ESG application and keep the HSAC meeting later in the month. Or we could do our HSAC meeting and elections and approval earlier in August.
But to do the email vote, policy and planning has to approve that. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Have to go to policy and planning for this month.
Well,
Will
no,
be made.
policy and planning doesn't have to approve the state application.
No, to do the email vote.
Not for
Is that-
HSAC.
Okay.
The HSAC, like the executive committee could recommend to the HSAC at our meeting that we do an email vote to approve the state ESG application. And then at our June meeting, the HSAC would vote to say, we will do an email approval of the state ESG application to ensure it's submitted on time during the month of August.
Otherwise, we'll have to move the meeting.
Otherwise, we'll have to move the meeting, and it could be something that we'd have to fit it into the agenda for a discussion, which we totally forgot to put on the agenda.
Looking to see calendar stuff. It would be a tough day for me to have a meeting, an HSAC meeting.
On August 9th.
Mm. Well, I have something that's not confirmed, and that's the problem. It's not confirmed. So I don't know if we're gonna, if I'm gonna be available or not yet. I only need to be available for the first few minutes of the meeting.
True. Mhm.
But I wouldn't miss the whole meeting. What does everybody else think? Or if we need, if either do an email vote or move it to August 9th.
I would just want to make sure the email vote like worked well. So I know I've seen a couple email votes, like y'all will send an email and say no response means we can move forward, or sometimes people have to respond. And so I just want to make sure that that process, whatever it is, works smoothly. So that would be my inclination, is to do whatever is smoother. So there's not a lot of waiting for responses or having to send out multiple emails, or, you know, whatever that process looks like on the back end.
The last one we did, Melissa, correct me if I'm wrong, I think Melissa was tabulating as they came in, and she would send a reminder until we hit our quorum, you know,
we still
until we
have
had
that.
enough.
Yeah.
And that's the piece. It's just, it's more work on our end to do it. We could perhaps use a smart sheet form, which will make the tracking a whole lot easier than counting actual emails, and be able to do that. We would just send out reminders until we get enough people to vote on it and have the record.
How soon would we be able to, would we need to start working on doing the vote?
Lloyd, you're the one who put together, I don't have that timeline off the top of my head, but Lloyd mapped out the state ESG timeline for the competition. Opens next week from the state, and there's a process that they have to go through, and then Jonathan and his committee are part of evaluations and making recommendations.
Yeah, I think we'd want funding recommendations approved by the HSAC by around August 9th to give any organizations that wish to file an appeal of our local recommendations time to do that, and then time for this executive committee to consider any appeals before the August 21st deadline. So if we get approvals by August 9th, we could give organizations until like August 14th to file any local appeals, and give this committee August 15th through the 18th to consider any appeals.
What's the timeline for when we would expect the local competition to close for us to, for the performance management committee to make some recommendations?
We were looking at closing the competition locally on July 11th. The state has indicated, if they follow through on that, they've indicated that they would open the competition on June 6th. So that would give organizations about 5 weeks to submit their applications, and then give performance management subcommittee between July 11th and about July 28th or August 3rd or 4th to finalize recommendations, but we need to get Performance Management Committee also to get approval before it goes to the HSAC for final funding recommendations. So that's kind of what we're looking at.
So you would need a performance management meeting August 3rd,
Right.
and then submit it out Friday the 4th. And final vote count done on or around the 9th or
Correct.
10th.
But
Is that doable, Jonathan, on the 3rd, August 3rd?
So I'm gonna be gone on leave from, goodness. From July. Excuse me, July 24th through August 7th. So it's. There definitely can be a meeting. It's just I can't share it, but I of course am, happy to do as much as we can before I go on leave. And it may just be that we have to have another member, chair that meeting.
Okay.
There's generally not that many applications for state ESG, so I think we can get through it. My guess is we'll probably have a very small number of people who can actually vote on the committee due to conflicts of interest. So I think we can get a vote done. It's just a question of whether it's, whether we have a formal meeting or whether we do an email vote for performance management, like we're talking about for HSAC. And I'm realizing we talked about moving the executive committee to the 29th of July. I apologize. I was a week off. I won't be there.
I thought about that when you said 24th.
Yeah.
No, Jonathan, you're not allowed to take vacation.
Oh, okay. All
You
right.
have to be here. This is more important than vacation. You can join from vacation. They're all virtual.
Yeah. Let's see how that works.
No, enjoy your vacation. You deserve
Because I'll be gone the 2 weeks before that.
it.
Well, I suspect we'll find a way. We always work through whatever challenges come up.
yep.
Okay, so the earliest we'd be able to do the email vote would be when? If we did the email.
For HSAC
Mhm.
would probably be sometime on the 4th. Friday the 4th would be the soonest. Worst
Okay.
case scenario is the voting would open on Monday 7th and close on the 9th.
Okay.
But I think this is what we're trying to do is instead of creating a crisis, we create the plan so people know we've got to do a vote at this point.
Right.
And we can try and find out ahead of time who's not going to be available to vote, which changes your quorum number because you've got X number of people excused absences for, vacations. So we might be trying to hunt.
I think it's me.
Are we frozen?
I don't know if we're frozen.
I'm gonna say it definitely cut out for me for a second. Helen and Colin and Lloyd are still frozen.
Okay, everyone was frozen. Oh, there goes people.
And mine went out completely and just came back in.
Yeah, I'm back too. Maybe folks will jump back in a minute.
Was it a Durham thing? Everybody in Durham?
I'm not in Durham, so
Right.
I don't know. I'm in Wilmington.
Yeah, I'm in Raleigh, so maybe it's a Durham thing.
Yeah.
Hey, did everyone get kicked out?
Either they got kicked out or they were frozen and they dropped out and are gonna come back in.
Yeah, I think it's Zoom. I got kicked out too.
Okay.
I think we all had some kind of like bug, so it probably is a Zoom thing.
Here we go. Everyone, it happened to everyone, Helen. You're muted.
So it wasn't just me then. Okay.
No.
Yeah, our internet's down over here. I just got on my hotspot.
Oh, huh. Maybe that's what it was.
Yeah. Yeah, I have a desk phone, and as long as my name is showing up on the phone, then I know that my internet's working. But I kept watching it and it didn't go off, but nothing was working. And so I just switched to my hotspot, and then the phone went out. So okay. Well, that's interesting that
Mine
everybody,
just ripped again. Mine just went out again and came right back.
yeah, apparently everybody did.
Apparently so. I thought it was just me.
Oh,
Apparently not.
that's weird though, because we're all on different servers. Well,
Colin
maybe,
said he's having trouble getting back in me.
yeah,
There
maybe
it
it was
is.
a Zoom thing.
Take a moment.
Is that everybody back now?
Zoom.
Uh,
Zoom
John-
Jonathan.
Yeah, Jonathan's the only one not back. So we were talking about the email vote. So it'll be a tight timeline, and as long as y'all have time to be able to manage that, I mean, I'm okay with doing an email vote. Do we need to wait for Jonathan to get back? Is this something we have to vote on, or?
I don't think it's something that the exec committee needs to vote on. The HSAC's the one who has to approve it.
Okay,
think-
I mean, do the, okay,
I think we just have to have a consensus that that's the path we're going to take and make, the recommendation would be to do that.
yeah, because I have a couple of concerns with moving the meeting itself, and one is my personal timing is not sure, but the other is, yeah, we'd still have a big gap, but we're not having a meeting in July. But I was going to ask what would be coming up in the September meeting. Would anything be affected by moving the August meeting? Would there be any unforeseen consequences down the line if we did that? I don't know.
Well, I think that's the unknown about the COC application. And the COC application is usually due in October. At, once in a blue moon, HUD stretch it out to November, but they really try to get it done before the end of the federal fiscal year.
Right, and the federal fiscal year ends September 30th, so I know they didn't quite meet the deadline last year of September 30th. I think it was due in early October, mid-October. I'm anticipating that they're going to try to get it submitted by the end of September this year, but we'll have to wait until the NOPO actually is released, which, based on what we received from HUD thus far, probably not going to be released until mid-July. So I don't know how much time they're going to give us to complete it.
Or right before July 4th weekend, which they're also notorious for doing.
Right, well, what a way to celebrate our Independence Day, right?
Exactly. They're great at doing that.
So Eliza, Jonathan, are y'all okay with doing an email vote or recommending an email vote?
Yes.
So we need
Yes.
to add that to the agenda for the June meeting to approve the email vote.
And the timing for that is that August 9th, 10th, right? And then
Mhm.
we're keeping our meeting in the third week of August. Okay,
Correct.
great.
I will go add that to our agenda as a must do. And we'll move everything around it. All right. Thank you all.
So I was looking back at the agenda. I think we talked about everything except the meeting schedule and the elections in August. Did you want to go ahead and talk about, or well, am I correct? Is that the only two things left, or do we need to?
Sorry, what was your question, Helen?
I said, I think it's for our agenda for today's meeting that we talked about everything except the meeting schedule and the elections in August.
I think so. And yeah, the elections. Yep. So
Do you want to go ahead and talk about the election in August?
we could talk about the elections. I know we've got to come up with, we normally sort of come up with a slate of officers that we recommend, open it up to floor nominations, and solicit anybody else who would like to run, HSAC members who would like to run for office. As of right now, I recall Russ said he would be willing to run for secretary again if we're unable to find somebody who wants to run for secretary. I did reach out to Ebony Thomas, who last year we had approached her about running, and she was about to have her baby and would be out for several months on maternity leave. She is now back, and I called her to follow up on what she said, that she would be willing to consider, maybe willing to consider this year. So I did reach out to her to see what her thoughts were. And she thought about it and got back to me and said she would be willing to run for the vice chair, and explained that the vice chair becomes the chair automatically in 2024. She had one concern, in that August of each year, she typically can't make the August meeting because school buses and trying to get it's just a crazy time. And I said, okay, well, I think we can probably resolve that if she wants to run, and if she were to be elected, there's probably a workaround. So that would be August this year would be an election. So she would be appointed to the position if she won in August of this year. Next August would be Eliza's last meeting as chair, where she would be assuming the chair in that day. And we would have to sort of either allow Eliza to finish that meeting, like do the whole meeting as the past chair, as the current chair was out, or whoever was elected vice chair or secretary step in and run the meeting in August of 2024. But I think there's a way to work through it but I don't want to make a decision without talking to all of you, see what your thoughts are.
Absolutely. This is a small thing and can easily be worked out.
Absolutely. If that's the thing. Go ahead, Eliza, I'm sorry.
No, I agree. And I'm happy to be a part of that solution.
All right. Well, I think we've at least got somebody running for secretary and somebody running for vice chair. So we got a slate that we can put forth and see if anybody else throws their hat in the ring.
I won't hold my breath.
Well, we'll keep asking.
You never know.
You never know.
Surprise us.
You never know. So, but I think it'll work well.
So then the last thing is the meeting schedule.
Yes. Meeting schedule. Oh, there was one other thing, and Ruby will kill me if I forget. We were made aware that the HSAC has this random $1,000 available to us that has to be spent by June 30th, spent, invoiced, and drawn down. And we were trying to figure out what to do with it, or whether or not we even have capacity to be able to do something in a short period of time with $1,000. And it has to be spent. It's not like we can take it and gift it to a nonprofit. It's like it has to be spent on HSAC. And trying to think it through, and we wanted to make sure that we flagged it to you all while we're trying to wrestle with it. So if we don't use it, it's not just, oh yeah, we decided not to use it and didn't tell people it's available. I don't think, as far as we know, there's no penalty for not using it. It's just kind of a thing that's there for.
Where'd it come from?
Clerk, let us know. I don't know. Ruby, do you have details on?
It's from the city boards received $1,000 this past year. I believe it came from some other money that was up there. That's why I don't know if it'll get approved next year. And usually HSAC is specifically excluded from any boards or commissions, stipends, or anything like that. So that's why we kind of didn't even, we're always specifically HSAC does not receive any of this money. We didn't really look at it too closely, but they did let us know that there's $1,000 that we could use, but the deadline is June 30th.
Lloyd?
I'm wondering if a portion of the funds could be used to provide a stipend to the HSAC members who have lived experience with homelessness in particular. Certainly not all of it, and I mean, on short notice. But I mean, I know HUD has been encouraging involvement of people with lived experience in COC governance and on our committees, and we've been challenged, I would say, in that regard. But just a thought comes to mind again. I don't even know if it's eligible.
Could we do that by the end of June 30th?
I think we discussed that at some point amongst staff. I do know that both of the city and county clerk's office were giving out stipends per meeting for certain individuals. And I know the persons with a lived experience would have received them. So I think the addition, if we said we split up the 1,000 to the 2 that we have on our board, we were discussing something that might run into tax issues if it's over the 600 limit or something. But we could certainly do it if that's something we want to do.
I think you raise a good point, Helen, as to whether or not we could pull it off in the time as the city would need to collect W-2s or W-4, whatever, W-4s.
Well, if they're already receiving stipends, they already have the information on file.
Yeah, if they're getting a stipend.
They are.
Okay. And then that would be sort of doubling the stipend, and whether or not this would be an eligible use to go above what the stipend is. And that was where, if I remember correctly, that's what you and I were concerned about, Ruby, is whether or not the stipend that's currently being given, if this were given on top of it, would that go above what the city and county are already doing, and from an equity lens?
I wasn't aware that the city's already providing a stipend to these individuals, so I'll withdraw that suggestion. They're already getting a stipend.
What about using the funds to either purchase a book for everyone on the committee that could be a helpful resource around a topic, or maybe paying for some training now, even if we can't have it right away, that could be scheduled at a later date?
Good try. So we can find. Is there a topic you have in mind, Jonathan, that you think would be useful to the group? From like either a book topic or a training topic.
I mean, I know there's lots of, different things out there. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if there's anything kind of current on the affordability crisis that's affecting the whole country. Yeah, I don't have anything specific, but I mean, there's any number of topics. Harm reduction, I think, would be interesting, to read about. Yeah, I think any of those.
Or trauma-informed care, or if there's any housing first, literacy.
Yeah, well, I know we're kind of doing more with racial equity. I mean, there could be something around, perhaps a resource on racial equity and locating housing.
I like the training idea too, but my only concern with that is knowing I've got a lot of experience now with working with governments and getting vendors and scheduling training. We might not be able to get that done by the end of June.
Yeah, because we wouldn't be able to pay for it until it's done. All those reimbursable things.
But not only that, but if city is like the county, then trying to get something approved before the end of June would be next to impossible.
Mm-hmm.
So purchasing items might be easier. And of course, my question there is, who would be able to do that? Would it be a P card purchase? Would that you would just charge to that account through your finance department, or how would that work? It's so many things to think about when you're trying to get rid of some money, but in a certain length of time.
And that was part of our dilemma, was like, I just don't know. And that's what we're trying to figure out on our end. Is there something A, that we can do in 28 days? B, do we have the bandwidth to do it with ESGCV monitorings and all the other pieces that we've got to get done, and all the other HSAC related activities that we're trying to work through? And where does this fall on a priority scale?
Mm-hmm.
And it's sort of like, yeah, it would be great to do something, and we'd love to do it. And Melissa said, what about, doing a luncheon or doing a get together at a venue and bringing in some food. And yeah, we could do that, but we got to find a venue, find a caterer, and get it all scheduled and lined up, and figure out how many people can do it. And could we pull off an in-person HSAC meeting on June 24th with food and get through all the business?
Sure.
So I mean, all these things are possible. It's great. It's just, where does it fall on the prioritization list and bandwidth of doing this?
So we don't know if this money would be available. If something similar would be available next year, which is we just know that we have it right now that's available. Because if we knew it was going to be available next year, then we could start planning for next year or something we could do then. But because the other thing was along the lines of what Jonathan was talking about, I know we're over time, but if there was items that we could purchase for the people we serve as well as HSAC members, is there something that, like for White Flag Night, are there things that people need? If the organizations need, or has that all been covered under funding that they've got for that, or something? I don't know. I'm just thinking.
We had talked about that. We weren't sure whether or not we could sort of gift it in that way, either another provider, because it's sort of for the board to use.
Gotcha. Okay.
My understanding is like some, maybe groups are looking at, catering a meal, or doing T-shirts for the group, or, books, things like that.
Just don't say coffee mugs.
That's a great idea, Helen. We can get
a
everybody.
Collection of coffee mugs. I'm starting to put a table with all my coffee mugs on it.
So I did a quick Google search on books about homelessness. Something that might be of interest, if there's interest in buying a book for people on the committee, would be Housing First, Ending Homelessness, Transforming Systems and Changing Lives. So here the illustrated edition is $27.24 to up to $29. Kindle edition is $14.57. It is one of the co-authors is Sam Severus, who's one of the primary architects of Housing First. The information online suggests the book traces the history of homelessness, the rapid growth of publicly funded homeless industries, and they summarize the research findings on Housing First and include a chapter of personal stories of individuals who have experienced Housing First. Highly readable yet informative and scholarly, the book addresses wider issues of innovation and systems change in social and human services.
So that, I guess this just brings me back to the question, who would take care of purchasing that? Do you have the bandwidth to even do this right now with everything else that's going on? Because it'd have to be one of y'all.
Yeah,
Right?
Well, yeah, it's city money, so it I guess
Yeah.
it needs to be,
how about,
needs to be purchased by the department.
If we decide to use that money, it only takes getting the order and how many to buy and give that to the city clerk's office, and they will purchase it. And they'll handle the receipts on their end to clear out for our little bank account that's with the city clerk's office.
You know, and if you bought 30 copies at $30 a piece, you're looking at what, $900,
Yeah, plus tax and
right?
shipping is free.
It would probably be free at that amount.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Assuming you want new copies, there are some used ones for that.
Well, it could have an opportunity for a book discussion, too. I know, I know folks have been thinking a lot about ways to engage people more, and like we had during the last meeting where we had folks conversing, giving thoughts, ideas, could make for an interesting discussion at some point to help bond the group.
Yep.
so what I'm hearing is CDD team, see if we can find a book, pick a book on homelessness, affordable housing.
Can I offer a
Uh,
suggestion on something
please.
that I've been thinking about this week? I was at a Strong Towns conference, and Javiera was there as well, and reminded me that the UDO rewrite is coming up. And we just had this big conversation about SCAD that Julia came and kind of spoke to us about. And so thinking about like the connections between the UDO rewrite, affordability, zoning, and how does that impact homelessness? I think that might also be a lane that we could go that's a little bit more adjacent, but could be interesting because there's this big piece coming up in Durham around rewriting our UDO. So just another thought. Arbitrary Lines is a book that came up during the Strong Towns conference, and Nolan Gray was there sharing about that. So that's just another option, I would say, not as directly connected to some of the work that we're doing adjacent, but another option that y'all could look at.
Okay.
Sounds good to me.
All right, we'll look and see if we can get a book ordered for everybody and see if we can find something, since the Homeless Services Advisory Committee, we'll try and see if we can find a way that sort of weaves pieces of all of it together, something that's little homeless, a little affordable housing, and how all of it intersects.
And this goes right along with what we've been talking about, is providing more education, more information. Yeah, keeping the conversation engaging. Yeah, thanks. Good idea.
All right.
Awesome.
I think we can probably manage that much better than managing a banquet.
Oh, come on. No, absolutely. Thank you for that.
a lot of lead time, a lot of details.
Oh,
Mhm.
yeah.
Amazon, it's literally like click.
Yeah, especially if the city clerk's office will just order it. We just give them a name and number of books. Boom, done. Okay. I think we can probably manage that.
Awesome.
All right, we will do that. Would you like us to email some proposed, like a proposed calendar to the group?
Yeah, that'd be great.
And, you know, the exec committee can sort of weigh in on either approving as is or conflicts that you see for,
Yeah, that sounds good. And just give us a deadline when you need that information back. So before the August meeting, right?
Mhm.
Which we already know is going to be, it's not moving. Right?
No.
All right.
All right.
Thank you. Is there
Thank you
anything
all.
else?
Appreciate it.
'Cause we're gonna, if not, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
And a second.
All right. Thank you all. Appreciate you.
All right. Y'all have a good weekend.
All right, have a
Thank
good one.
everybody. Have
Bye.
a good one.
I,